Hello, this is Jane Talbot, and today I have 2 adventure reports to submit. Last night I had a really brilliant conversation with a lady called Katherine Bolton. Katherine is based in Brittany. She's a published author and she's also a writer's coach. She runs retreats for individuals and for groups. She was really helpful in getting me to understand the kind of book I am writing, and she also gave me some top tips that would help me find potentially a publisher for my book. So she asked me, well, what kind of romantic fiction are you writing? Are there any fantasy elements? No. Is it erotica? No. Found out I'm quite British in that department, and to be honest, you know, apparently if I'd written erotica I could be a billionaire-ess by now, but it's not the story I want to tell. So it turns out I'm writing what's called a basic romance, and as a result of the conversation with Katherine, I'm also pretty certain that Mills Boon is not for me. So the message really is that Mills Boon is quite formulaic. It's very successful. Mills Boon readers love it, but if you depart from that formula, the readers don't like it and the publishers don't publish it. So I feel quite comfortable now in writing my own story in the way I want to write it, in the way that story wants to be told, without adhering to any kind of formula, and that feels really good to have made that congruent decision. Katherine also suggested that I look at the Romantic Novel Association website. There'll be lots of helpful resources on there, and that I buy a book called the Artists and Writers Yearbook. In that book will be a list of publishers. It'll tell me the kind of books they publish, and if I want to submit a manuscript, how that should be done, whether it's through an agent, whether I can submit direct, and in what kind of format. So that's all really helpful. Katherine also suggested that I go into bookshops and look for books which are similar to mine and see who has published them, and then these might be publishers that I could approach with my manuscript. So I went to Waterstones in Ballymena. No romantic fiction section at all, no erotica section at all. It was horror though. It was horror and science fiction. So of course the question that came to my mind is, I wonder if bookshops actually stock according to local reading habits. Never seen bookshops in that light before. I then went to Tesco's, and yes, they had the usual Mills Boon. Mills Boon, I have learned, always take up the bottom shelves. I looked very hard for other types of romantic fiction, and they were actually quite scarce, but I stumbled across Danielle Steele. Now, she writes books. Her books are so successful that some of them have been made into films and miniseries. So, well, I'll take a look at this. She's published by Corgi Press, and I opened the book, and guess what I found in there? Prose. That's right. I found that really encouraging. So yesterday I think I was feeling quite torn, feeling quite uncomfortable, feeling that something was unresolved, that I was potentially heading down a path that wasn't for me, and now I feel confident and congruent about treading my own path as far as this novel is concerned. So much so that as part of today's adventure I got into conversation with a complete stranger, a charity worker who was signing people up for donations, and we got to talking. Don't know how we got onto the subject, but we started talking about romantic fiction, funnily enough, and I told him I was writing a book, and he wanted to know what the plot was. He thought it was brilliant, especially the multiple untimely deaths. Could have a male market there. See you tomorrow.